Good evening, folks, and welcome to the August 9th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. If everybody would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thanks for coming, and for those of you that have tuned in via the cable network, we appreciate your efforts as well. First item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing. The intent of this public hearing is to receive public comment concerning the proposed shoreland zoning ordinance, or the new revised, if you will. There's a few steps that we'll go through here, but just a few guidelines. This is a meeting where we will take input from the public. We have this later on our agenda, but based on the complexity of it, we probably will not address acceptance or rejection of this anytime soon. We'll have to digest information that comes from this meeting and meet with staff and code officer and probably the planning board again and whatnot. But this is the next step, if you will, in the legislative process of implementing a new or revised zoning change. So many of you have participated in the planning board's sessions. This is not unlike what you did there. All I would suggest is that if you feel that you said something at a planning board meeting that was recorded and whatnot, don't assume that we have that information. So this is the Board of Selectmen's now procedure on how we're going to go forward and what we'll recommend for changes or implementations. So like I said, if you've raised an issue before, please raise that issue again. I would ask as we start through this process that everybody come to the podium, state your name. Sherry's going to try to make sure that we get everybody's name. We are, as we always do, record this meeting, and then we will put together all of the comments. One thing that I want to make sure that everybody understands, this is not a debate tonight. We're not here to debate the pros and the cons. If you have a comment that you like, dislike, want to see something changed, certainly provide that to us, and we will record that information so that we might be able to leave this meeting and over the next several weeks, months, whatever it takes to digest those comments as we move forward. So if it turns into a debate, I will shut off that debate, and so I would ask that just everybody be professional about what you have to say, make your statements, and we will move on from that point. I'm going to have Glenn Charette, who's our CEO, kind of give a brief, because I know he's worked more with the planning board on what is being proposed here, so I'm going to let him give a short opening statement.
Before we do, can I talk about the video? Folks, this is recorded live, being broadcast live right over into the old section of Town Hall. If you don't want to stand, you're welcome to go over there and sit and listen to it. There's television and good speakers set up over there. Thank you.
I just want to be clear on what you mean by debate. You're talking about not crediting or discrediting someone else's response,
If
right?
you have some comments, give us the comments.
Okay.
But if we start debating one another in here, that's not what this meeting is about. Okay? So, Glenn, go ahead.
Good evening, members of the Select Board, Mr. Lamb. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Glenn Charette, Waterboro's Code Enforcement Officer. You'll hear us talk about Chapter 1000 a few times this evening. Chapter 1000 is the DEP's version of shoreline regulations. It's a mandatory minimum guideline for municipalities to work with, and the ordinance we are talking about tonight has 90% of its content from Chapter 1000. This is mandatory. Most of the text in it is mandatory. Towns can adopt it word for word, but they can't be less stringent than this minimum guideline from DEP. That I want to make sure everybody understands. We can be more stringent, but we can't be less stringent. Mandatory Shoreland Zoning Act is M.R.S. 38, Section 435 through 449. This is a state regulation. I want to describe a couple things as we go through. Shoreland is defined as 250 feet from the high water mark of a great pond, river, or stream. That's how that is defined. Non-conforming lot is a lot that doesn't meet the size requirements of the ordinance in that district. We're talking about the AR district, which requires a minimum of 100 feet shore frontage, and it has certain setbacks as well. Non-conforming structure, which you'll hear tonight, is a structure that doesn't meet the setbacks of that district. The one thing the select board will be talking about, maybe not tonight, is the shoreland map that kind of falls into place with the ordinance. When we create an ordinance, we have to create also a shoreland map, which we may or may not be talking about tonight. The planning board and myself have gone through 4 drafts, numerous workshops, and 1 public hearing. The DEP, Mike Morris from the Shoreland Division, has worked closely with us, along with our municipal attorney, Natalie Burns. So what you have in front of you tonight has been approved by the planning board. The planning board has also recommended to the selectmen that we delete Article 7, Section 7.01, development of shorelands in its entirety. When and if the new ordinance in front of you gets adopted by the planning board, it will be a standalone ordinance. That will allow modifications to the ordinance as seems fit by the town without going through the entire town ordinance. I'm going to talk briefly about some of the things that have been changed. The district's general development 2 and commercial fisheries districts have been deleted from the land use table. Upon recommendations from the DEP, a lot of commercial development and general development is not allowed in the AR district, so we deleted it from the map. The guidelines of non-conforming structures have changed. I think they actually have gotten easier. From the old 30% expansion rule, there are 3 categories which non-conforming structures can follow, and I think it'll make it easier for the property owners. Hazardous trees, or I get calls weekly about someone wanting to take down trees. That language has been cleaned up, makes it a little bit easier for the code officers to enforce. Erosion control and sedimentation control in shoreland is critical to the survival of the town's water bodies, which don't only include Osprey Lake, obviously. Lake Sherburne and a few others are included. So to practice erosion control in shoreland, you have to be certified and pass a state test. And I check on erosion control measures to make sure they comply with those state standards. Residents are exempt from that requirement, although they still have to practice safe erosion control. The dock language, which I expect a lot of people are here for, we'll get into that a little bit later. We've added non-residential dock section in the new ordinance. The ZBA process, which is the only process someone can appeal to, has been corrected by the municipal lawyer, and we've added some definitions in the definition chapter of the new Shoreland Ordinance. Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Okay. Okay. In an effort to be, I guess, I don't want to jump all over the room here. So, For those of you that would like to speak, I guess if you could, I'll recognize you, if you can come to the podium, and maybe I'll try to get 2 or 3 lined up here so that this thing flows a little bit. So, who would like to speak? Cindy? Step right up to the...
Hi, Cindy Moore. I think a lot of people are here because of the word grandfathered, and I think that a lot of people have been on the lake since the 30s, 40s, 50s. A lot of people have had 2 docks wider than 6 feet wide. The other issue that I'm going to address is the right-of-way issues. If you have a right-of-way and you have a dock on that right-of-way, there is absolutely no way you're going to be 12 feet from your neighbor's property. Those are the 2 things. What are you going to grandfather, and what are you going to do about the right-of-ways? And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Okay. Next. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Tara Rich, and I'm here on behalf of Dave Baza and Little Ossipee Lake Campground. And I just wanted to address the docks. The language that has been added over and above Chapter 1000, we heard Glenn Charette mention that Chapter 1000 is the DEP minimum standard. And there is dock language that has been added to this provision, as Glenn mentioned, both in commercial docks, but also with respect to residential docks. There's an overall length limitation to 40 feet, and that has been applied to commercial docks, whereas DEP minimum standard regulations don't require any length limitations for commercial docks. We think that these amendments make Waterboro more restrictive to businesses than other neighboring towns in this area. And moreover, it's much more restrictive than the DEP regulations, and it stands in stark contrast to what Waterboro has stated is its goals in developing the economy, and particularly tourist-based businesses. It really makes not a lot of sense when you're talking about commercial docks having the exact same standards as residential docks, because they serve very different purposes. Commercial docks are designed to be used intermittently with more people and without having one single dock based permanently as a residence would. And this is all designed to increase the town's tourist-based income, its tax base. It really doesn't make a lot of sense to target the commercial properties in this way. Now, I wanted to point something out because I do think it's a little bit misleading when you look at the Waterboro amendment. You have the DEP guideline, which requires that the facility be no longer than necessary, meaning the docks themselves, and that a residential as opposed to a commercial dock be no wider than 6 feet. But if you look at the Waterboro amendment, it looks as if the 30 feet length has been deleted and one for 40 feet has been added. That was never a part of the DEP regulation. The DEP regulation, I'll be clear about this, does not have a length limit. That was an original proposal by the code enforcement officer that was rejected by the planning board, and now it looks as if that would be part of the DEP regulation. DEP does not have a regulation that limits the length. The second provision that we wanted to address, in addition to dock lengths, is this section 15C has a new subsection, which is marked 11 in the new ordinance. And it says that any non-residential use of a dock requires a conditional use permit. Now, every single business in Waterboro is going to have to go to the planning board for a conditional use permit to determine whether or not they are interfering with navigation and to adjacent lots or contributing to the congestion of abutting waterfront properties. These are extraordinarily vague standards. There are no standards by which the planning board is going to be able to determine whether something is contributing to congestion or whether it is interfering with navigation. Now, although this may present legal problems down the road as to its enforceability if it's too vague, it simply does not make sense. It's going to be a really onerous burden on Waterboro businesses, and it really doesn't address the concern that was brought to the planning board, which was that the speed of the boats, reckless driving that is happening on Little Ossipee Lake. Those are really concerns that are targeted towards users of the public boat launch. Obviously, Little Ossipee Lake Campground is something that is used by a lot of older people. It is simply not designed to address the major concerns of the public. So we would just ask the Board of Selectmen to carefully review the additions over and above Chapter 1000 and to ensure that they make sense for Waterboro's businesses and Waterboro's economy.
Thank you. Who's next? Leo?
Leo Burnett. My concern is with section 12B2. The state ordinance says you can do maintenance on your property without a permit. With the out has been scratched and now says with a permit. That is if you live on the lake or within that 250-foot line, that is different from another resident in town. They're allowed to do that maintenance, and now you will not be able to. I don't see why two property tax owners should be treated differently on that. The state doesn't require that, but the ordinance has been changed to require it. So just have a concern that we're being told that we need this state ordinance, but it's not the state ordinance. When you really look through it, there's a lot of changes that have been made in it to make it much more restrictive on us. So that's the comment I have on that.
Okay. Thanks, Leo. Next.
I am Sandra Bernard, if anyone knows who I am. I know that the shoreline zoning ordinance we have to have something that's mandatory by the state. Is there a certain timeline? Have we already not met that? Is there a timeline when it needs to be mandatory to our town? So we have the shoreline zoning ordinance? Because we have a current ordinance, correct? It's a paragraph statement, it's the 7.01, and now we have a 70-page document. So what forced us to go in this direction that we're currently at?
When is there was a deadline for revisions, right?
Yeah, there isn't, DP hasn't set a deadline for municipality.
Just says that we have to comply.
Right. Yeah, we're looking at the 2015 version. They haven't set a time frame yet.
Okay.
So it's not, as of right now, it's not mandatory that we change anything that we have current.
No, that's
correct?
not correct. It is mandatory. They just haven't set a time frame on that. We have to comply with the 2015 shoreline ordinance.
So if we, as of right now, adopt the state of Maine shoreline zoning ordinance exactly as the state of Maine states, we would be legal and mandatory by state guidelines. Is that correct? Without any changes whatsoever?
Yeah, I'm not sure that you can just say this is exactly what we're going to plug in, but without some wording and those kind of things. But I think it's a matter of requirements, and as Glenn had said, to start with, we cannot be less restrictive than anything that's in the state ordinance. We can be more restrictive, and we certainly have that right to do that.
But we don't have to be.
We do not have to.
We do not have to be. So if the town's will of the people was to accept the state of Maine's, then we could
And we have
recommend
the same thing all over the zoning.
Right.
Where we're more restrictive than what the state law might be in different sections. Glenn?
Mr. Chair, if I can elaborate on that a little bit. The 2015 version of the DEP shoreline regulations covers a lot of area for all of the towns in the state of Maine. Some of those areas are not reflective of Waterboro. Coastline, for instance. Rivers running through the center of towns, for instance. Waterboro doesn't have any of those. And the DEP, if you're going to assign their version right now and kick it back to them, they would kick it back to us faster than we could get it to them, because they don't recommend towns adopt it word for word.
So what theirs is a guideline.
Is a guideline, that's all it is. Okay.
So then my next question, when we got to what section was it as far as the permitting? Sorry. So I just have more questions than maybe it's just, excuse me for not understanding some things. So it was the part about repair and maintenance. And so I looked down through the blue things, and it says the property owner is responsible, confirming code enforcement officer whether the permit is required for proposed work. But it basically says that when it's switched, this ordinance allows with a permit. My question is so if you're at 250 feet in the shoreline zoning, you're required to basically come to the code enforcement office and ask for any repair, basically, unless it's painting or something very general. So if they need to put new windows in or put new siding on, like if they want to cover their clapboard, those are things that they would come to the office for. Would that be considered general maintenance?
And if I may again, Mr. Chair, there's two regulations in play here, the shoreline regulation and the building code rules for our town, which is a mandate from the state of Maine. So the building codes say any alteration or remodeling has to be permitted. And the problem with maintenance, a lot of people when they start maintenance in the camp, all of a sudden it leads to rot repair, which involves structural components. So that's when a permit is required. If you're just going to paint, replace shingles, that's maintenance. If you replace a rotted board on a set of stringers, that's maintenance. But if you get involved in the structural number, that requires a permit.
Okay. So I guess my question is there a difference between our current building code ordinance and this ordinance in the sense with we talking about repair and maintenance? So if I live at 250 feet from the shoreline versus 300 feet from the shoreline,
there's no difference.
Is there any difference?
There is no difference.
The requirement is the same?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep,
So that's what I need to ask.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next. Douglas?
Douglas Foglio Senior. This is supposed to replace and create a standalone ordinance. Some time ago, we decided that we didn't want single standalone ordinances. We wanted our ordinances all in one book, so you didn't have to go to several ordinances to figure out where you were at. If we're going to have a ordinance and we're going to compare it to Chapter 1000, why didn't we have the opportunity to review Chapter 1000? We didn't. What we got was a version created by the planning board and the CEO without ever having looked at Chapter 1000. We never got a comparison chart to see what this done in changes over the existing ordinance we have in place today, or even how it compared to the Chapter 1000. Most of the time, when you take an ordinance and you start to review it, you print the ordinance in one color, you put all the changes in a separate color, so you know what's additions and what subtractions there are to the ordinance. This did not happen, and for most lay people, they wouldn't know where to go get a Chapter 1000. Until I started looking at this ordinance, I didn't know what Chapter 1000 was. I also own properties in several other communities, which is Shoreland and Lurk. So I have had occasion to consult with code officers in both of those districts. And they, one of them is the town of Rangeley, and they're not even going to start looking at this. I asked him when it became mandatory for the municipalities to adopt this. He said no date has been set. And if we don't have anything in place, we will just go under the state-imposed shoreland ordinance until such a time as we come up with it, because we feel that they may still make changes in this ordinance that they are calling 2015 version. So it's not clear that the DEP has made its final revisions in this ordinance that's been proposed. So I would ask this board that they table this until at least we have a definite date, and until we can have a comparison between the Chapter 1000, the state of the town of Waterboro's version, and the existing ordinance that's in play today. Because neither Rangeley nor Lurk has adopted these regulations, as well as other towns that I have talked to, some in York County. They have not adopted this, and they're going to take the wait-and-see attitude. Why do we need regulations that are far greater than what the state of Maine recommends? Our water bodies are our greatest revenue source that we have in the town, and what we are doing is trying to penalize these people with more regulation, more cost, and more bureaucratic red tape. I think that that's wrong. I think you should table this ordinance. Thank you.
Thanks,
One
Doug.
question before you leave. Doug, what's LURK?
Land use regulatory, that's all the unorganized townships.
Okay.
If you own anything, well, if you go above Rangeley any distance, you go up into Moosehead,
the townships.
up in the Allagash, that's all regulated by LURK. And that's totally a state agency. It's just a government unto itself.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who's next? Yes, sir.
My name is Mark Dodge, and I own property immediately opposite the campground. The representative from the campground seemed to imply that we should not impose a restriction on docks, and that, in fact, I believe we should. A 40-foot dock in that position takes up about a third of the width of the cove there. I'm immediately impacted by that because I am, as I say, my property is immediately opposite the campground. If I put up a 40-foot dock, there'd be precious little navigation room across the cove there. It would impact the folks at Sunnyside as well. So I would say that the board should adopt more restrictive as to quantity and length and position of the docks. They are one property owner. The argument is that it's a commercial enterprise, but and the argument was that it would accrue the tourist value to the town would be valuable, that we would lose that. Well, I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's a big imposition on the rest of the property owners across the lake. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Ross Dindio, and I'm a summer resident. I was just looking on page 18. There's a note, and it says, a structure constructed on a float or floats is prohibited unless it is designed to function as and is registered with the Maine Department of Environmental Fisheries and Wildlife as a watercraft. I guess my question is, does that mean that a floating dock comes underneath that? And I don't know how many floating docks, but I'm going to guess that there's got to be 35, 40, 50 floating docks on the lake. And some of them have diving boards on them, and some of them have slides on them. So I didn't, is that what that refers to, is my question. So,
I had the same question. We'll get that answer.
Huh? You didn't get an answer?
We'll get an answer.
Okay. Yeah. Because my next, for the sake of discussion, if that is the case, and let's go, not a quantum leap, let's assume that they were all grandfathered in, then it isn't up to the town to enforce anything on those. It would be up to the Department of Inland Fisheries to check that out. Now, having said that, the existing game warden has come to my house a number of times, and he stays right there to enforce his job. But at the time he came, I think it was last year, I had 2 buoys that were anchored at each end. And then I went to a yard sale and I got 14 that were tied together. So I put them all in a row because I'm in the very narrow part of the lake. Basically to, as he said, to identify a swim area. And he said, you can't do that. And it has nothing to do with the town. But you can't create a swim area if you're an individual. That's what he told me. So I said to him, well, what if I put a dock out there? And that was a floating dock. Instead of these, 12 little balls, what if I put a 12 by 12, floating dock out there? He says, you can do that. So that's why I asked this question. It would obviously, I presume it would fall underneath.
I think the definition probably is what is a structure on a floating dock, right? What constitutes a structure?
Yeah.
Guessing they're trying to prevent floating houses.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what the DP means.
Right.
You want the dock out there with a camp on it all the time.
Interesting.
Okay. I had a question from over here. Yep.
Patty Matos. I was at the...
Sorry,
My name's Patty Matos.
Patty.
Yeah. So I was at the last meeting that was with the planning board, and there were quite a few people, family members of mine, that could not make it today. So I know there's two sides to everything. We can't make everybody happy. But as other taxpayers that live on the lake, we are concerned with adding more boats to the lake, with the boat traffic in the lake, with the erosion that's happening, the safety of the people swimming, and the quality of the water. And these are all things we think of when we start to talk about lengthening docks and bringing more boats into the lake. So I just want to speak my piece about that, just something else to consider, because I feel like you've got not a lot of that. People aren't really speaking up, and at the last meeting there were quite a few people here that did speak up about that. So I just wanted to bring it up so that you consider that as well, because we're not trying to penalize anybody, businesses, but we are concerned for the safety and the erosion and the quality of the water.
Anything else?
Hi, I'm Bob Lehman. I want to totally support what Doug said. I agree that, there's already a state ordinance in place, and, until we're told we have to have an ordinance, I think it should say the same. I also want to talk about the 40-foot dock. For some places, it's absolutely critical, compared, depending on what you have for space. I mean, Mr. Dodge talked about him having a dock and the campground having a dock. Absolutely, that's going to kill the traffic flow to Sunnyside Cottages. But there are places on the lake that you need to have a longer dock than 40 feet just to get your boat in deep enough water so it's not banging on shore. I mean, I have 3 boats. I have a fishing boat, a ski boat, and a pontoon boat, and you put 2 of those end to end and a 40-foot dock doesn't handle it. So there are cases on the lake where you can't get close enough to shore because you don't get the full length of a 40-foot dock for your boat.
Right.
But there are cases where if everyone had a 40-foot dock, there'd be no traffic going in and out of Sunnyside Cottages either. So I think each case ought to be looked at individually and shouldn't penalize people that need to have that extra dock. I mean, they may be in a cove that doesn't affect anybody.
Okay.
There's probably places there, if you 2 40-foot docks on both shore properties, they're gonna bring their touch.
I understand that, but there are places where you're in a cove and
Right.
Okay,
I
anybody,
agree with what you've just said, but
anybody else?
Robert Thomas.
Robert?
What ordinance are we working off of now for docks, or for any of this?
There's a shoreland zoning ordinance that is part of the zoning ordinance for the town of Waterboro.
And that's from when?
God.
94.
96. Yeah, gotta be back in the 90s.
So it's never been taken off the books?
No.
It's always been there?
This would be, the proposal that the planning board has is that we would take that out of the current zoning ordinance and have a standalone shoreland zoning ordinance. Can be either way.
And what would we do about right-of-ways?
Pardon?
About right-of-ways? Put docks and right-of-ways?
The right-of-way issue is an issue because there are, I'm going to say, hundreds of right-of-ways on this, at least on Ospey Lake. I'm not sure about some of the others, and there's multiple people that use the same right-of-way. So does that mean they all have a right to put a dock, basically? So those are some of the things that we're going to have to shake out here.
Lake Sherburne I would believe, is all the right way to
Yeah.
the water, because, fellow saved back a piece of land from
That's right. They
boundary
built,
lines to the lake. So he's got a 10-foot strip all the way around that lake that I don't think has ever been taken care of as
And
far
to
as
the
land
gentleman's
goes.
point about the 40-foot dock, and none of my dock is only this deep,
yeah.
and I'm
Okay.
out there.
Anyone else?
In regards to the dock ordinance and adding docks and lakes, I think maybe if it does ever get addressed, that maybe you can use a common sense issue, that your dock can't impose on neighboring not to go right away. That, I mean, it's pretty common sense that if you have a 40-foot dock and the next neighbor can't get their boat out of there, then it's common sense, and you can't block navigational ways to those surrounding. But to put that dock length on anyone, I mean, we keep talking about Ossipee because it happens to be next to the town, town hall here. But there's Lake Arrowhead, there's Lake Shoreland, there are rivers, streams, and ponds, and all of these have different types of access based on where you are. But specifically when you're talking about the larger lakes, the tax generation that comes off those properties, if they can't access the body of water that they are paying taxes on, then that would be a shame on our town to not allow that. So we have to use common sense and try to play the all get along. But I don't know that if you say, hey, if you can have one up to 40 feet, then everybody puts up ones into 40 feet, and then you've really got more issues than there already are. We already know there are some civil issues going on in the lake, but I don't want to create more issues. So maybe something written more common sense. You can't block your neighbor. Well, it's common sense, I would hope, but that would have to be something very, very hard to look at, whether it's included or not included in how it's written.
Okay. Cindy?
I think what we've got going on here is two issues. I think you've got the residential issue, and I think Doug's right. I don't know what you're going to do about that. The lake is pretty much grown up. People have their docks. I just don't know how you're going to enforce it. I don't know if you're going to give Glenn a boat and have him run around all day figuring out who put in an extra dock. I think the commercial has to be taken separately. I think that we're near that cove. Nothing, the campground's been good neighbors. It's not a problem. It's just that it's a tiny cove. And you've got other people who have houses on Route 5. And what if they all decide to throw in 2 or 3 docks and get money out of them? What's going to stop them from doing that? I mean, is there anything that if I'm on Route 5 and I'm next door to the campground and I own a property, why don't I just put in 2 or 3? You know what I'm saying? It's just going to get so congested in that little cove. Nothing against the campground. I just don't know who you're going to finally tell, well, no, they've got to do it, but now it's too congested, so you can't do it. And I think you're opening up a kettle of worms if you're going to hang around with that one.
All right. Anybody else? Yep.
My name's Mary Ellen Blaser, and I'm co-owner of the Ossipee Lake Campground. Just to address what you just said, and thank you, because I don't feel like we're a problem to anybody on the lake. Majority of our customers are 55 and older. 80% of them are either from Waterboro or Maine and the surrounding towns, not from Massachusetts like people like to think. A lot of them are from Florida, and they're here to visit families. Some of them are even from houses on the lake that they sold. We did write, there is a measurement about the docks, that a 40-foot dock would not go into the middle of that cove, and we do understand that that's a small cove. The people in the campground, they are taxed on their trailers. They eat in all the restaurants in the town. They get gas at Lakeside Market. They bring a lot of money into this town. We have 70-year-old people that have to put their boat in and out of that boat launch every weekend. They're not the yahoos on the lake. They're just somebody with a pontoon boat that would like to take a ride. I just want to clear up that if we did put in new docks, you wouldn't be getting extra traffic. The people that would get the dock slip is just a parking space. Their boat's already on the lake. So in other words, I'm trying to say there wouldn't be added traffic. The people are already on the lake. And as far as what you were saying that I'm confused about, is as a campground, I have to have a business license. I have to have a permit to do sales from the state of Maine. I'm unclear on that, if anybody on the lake could just start renting dogs. I mean, isn't that something that you need a license or a permit from the state to have a business?
Well, I suppose that can be, they would have to come forward to the town to be able to start that, although there are some rumors that there's some commercial stuff going on in the...
There are a lot of people on the lake that rent dogs, because I know that, because a lot of my customers are renting them.
Yeah.
There's lots, that's what upsets me too, is that there's all these 400 cottages in the lake. Every time their kids come, their parents come, their friends come, and they put boats on the lake. That's extra traffic, and that's okay. But my customers are paying taxes and spending money in town, and that's not okay. And that's where I feel a little discriminated against.
Appreciate that. No, I don't really want to get into this debate.
I'm not trying to debate, I just
just
wanted to
saying a little
stand
thing.
up for myself.
Doug?
It's difficult to come to a meeting like this and stand up and have all of the concerns and questions that you have. It's difficult to bring them all to light. So is the board prepared to take written comment for a period of time after this meeting? There is, if so, are you going to state that? There is, there's a lot in it, and it's too confusing to try to take it all. But Dennis, John, Gordon can't do it. Dwayne can. You can put a tent up on your property and keep it, but if you live in the Shoreland zoning ordinance, you can only keep it for 120 days. So there are size differences that are in there, and it would take a long time to sit down and bring these points all out to you, but they don't make sense. They don't make sense that just because you own property within 250 feet of the lake, you can't do something that somebody that owns property 251 feet from the lake can do. You can work on the front half of your cottage if it's 250 feet, you can't touch it. If the back is 260, you can do what you want for repairs. This thing about repairs leaves too much to the discretion of the CEO. It's not explicit. It doesn't tell you what. There's no dollar amount in this. There may be in the building code, but there isn't in this ordinance. So if you're going to have a standalone ordinance, you better have an ordinance that completely and specifically tells you what its intent is, not one that leaves it up to somebody's discretion and you've got to go back and search some document that you know nothing about to find out what the intent is of that document, because it may actually apply to this document too. So this whole ordinance is quite confusing. When you have a standalone ordinance, you have to make sure that it's extremely specific. If you have it as an addition or in the regular zoning ordinance, then it's more up to the client or the person that wants to do the work to review the entire ordinance to make sure that they comply with all aspects of it. This won't happen with a standalone ordinance. So I think that, the complexity of this thing is great. I think at a minimum you need to allow some time for people to respond to you in writing, and then take their comments unnamed and put them out with the comments that came from this oral meeting.
Well, certainly there were a number of comments during the planning board process, both written and verbal. We will try to pull that all together, and we will have a discussion later as we address this on the agenda tonight of what our next steps are, and certainly we'll consider that from taking public comment for so many days. I don't think that the world is going to come to an end if we don't implement this in the next 60 days. So I think that we need to do some work and go from there. Anybody else would like to say something?
My name's Joan Fowler, I live on the lake. This ordinance that you're talking about, do the people of Waterboro have any voting on this, or is it just the board that puts in?
The board is a final legislative decision makers based on the current charter. Doesn't mean that we can't take it to a town meeting vote. Take it to a town meeting vote that's going to be reflective of only those registered voters within the town of Waterboro.
Right.
But those are the discussions that we'll have as we go forward. But it's been many years since any zoning ordinances have been taken to a town meeting vote, only because the charter allows ultimately this decision. So, the process, as I started to say earlier, starts really with the planning board and the provisions I think that Glenn gave or recommended to the planning board 3-4 hearings, I think. Some of this has been aired before, and this final process, if you will, not that this is the final step, but this is the next step in the process that ultimately this board will make the decision, unless we choose to push it off onto the taxpayers. The dilemma is that we're going to have taxpayers make a decision, and you're going to miss I don't know how many people that are taxpayers but not registered voters. So we'll have to take that into advisement. So.
Right, because you have summer residents.
Right.
So like you're saying now, you want to wait 60 days. Well, by then, all the summer people will be gone, and so there's a definite...
Well, that's why I think we want to make sure that we record everything that everybody has to offer here tonight. I made the request today of exactly, I think Doug brought it up, let's take this thing side by side. What is it that we're recommending that's different than Chapter 1000 and what isn't? So I think there's a lot of work from our perspective. And there's 5 of us that all have a different opinion of what we should be looking at. We've already had planning board go through it. They've made their, final position, and that's been now passed over to us. So ultimately, we'll make a decision. But I don't think that we're going to pull the trigger in the next 5 minutes to say, oh, gee, let's do this. Or wait until in the dark of night when everybody else is gone to do it either. So I don't think we have any kind of a history of that. So.
Ultimately, this board needs to make this decision. And, you can see the complexity of this and the time that we need. We've already spent in reading it and more time that we need in order to make an informed decision. And could you see putting that in front of a town meeting? And would people have that kind of information to make those decisions on the complexity? Right. So it needs to be this board. But I don't think we're going to be making a decision on this tonight. No.
Well, I would like to support the suggestion that Doug had that we would be able to, in writing, send in our thoughts and our concerns, and then have you review them, because being on the lake and we do pay a lot of taxes to the town. Most of us don't take anything from the town as support. We do our own plowing, we have our own, like everyone else, and most of us don't have children that attend the schools, so we're paying a lot of taxes, and we'd like to have a say in how these things go.
I'm not speaking for the chair here, but I think he would say this, and the rest of us. Anybody want to put something down in writing? The points that you made here tonight, putting it in writing so we can see it.
Right.
That we can see it and digest it a lot better than just hearing it.
Right. See how many people feel this way and the strong feelings that people have.
Yes.
I would appreciate that consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
And nobody has to wait to make those written comments. You don't have to wait for a written comment period. You're welcome to do that now. Do it by email. Do it to a letter to myself or the selectmen. And
there's a button right on your page, right underneath email Board of Selectmen.
Do it anytime.
You can press it and just say anything you want.
Anything else? If not, certainly appreciate everybody's input. We will have a bit of a discussion on the agenda later here, but it will be what are our next steps, basically. I think it's fair to say that we're not pulling the trigger here of doing anything immediately anyway. So, but we do have to move forward and understand what it is and how it is that we have to comply. And like any, taxes aren't fair, zoning's not fair, but we have to get to some sort of a happy medium here where we can take care of folks. So, all right.
Excuse me, the next steps then are you review everything and make a decision?
We will, and we probably will have another public hearing, because any substantial change in any language would drive us back to this process again. Okay? Anything else?
Well, I think, yeah, we were discussing earlier, I think we finally found the handle to get public attendance at the Selectmen's meeting.
We will be having this discussion at town meeting next year.
We'll have a little bit on the agenda each week, and then
Dwayne, you have anything?
No.
Tim?
Not now, no.
John, you all set? Gordon, you all set?
I'm just to comment on the referendum. I would be opposed to that from the standpoint I think that the chair alluded to, is I think it places those non-resident taxpayers in a very precarious position where you would have residents on the lake making decisions that directly affect them. And I can see where that may take on sometimes things that we don't want it to. I know that there is a little bit of animosity directed towards the campground for whatever reason. They don't like this or they don't like that. So if you were to have this as a referendum question, that gives you the tool basically to kind of tuck it to them a little bit. And I think that that's blatantly unfair. So if it came to a vote on that, I would be opposed to the referendum. Not that I'm opposed to public comment. I welcome it. And I think there were some good things that were brought up here because quite frankly, this is a confusing document. I tried reading through this and, there are parts of it that I don't understand yet. And there are parts of it that, quite frankly, act as a sedative if I want to go to sleep pretty quick. So it's going to take an awful lot of, I guess, digesting, as the chair put it, to come up with a document that we can all live with. But I think as long as we keep the lines of communication open and we're pretty amiable about it, which this group seems to be, hopefully we can arrive at something that is equitable for all.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Yeah.
If you, does it go back to the planning board? I'm sorry, Ross Indio. Question is, does it go back to the planning board if you make substantial changes? Because the planning board did in fact approve it in this form.
It does not have to go back to the planning board.
Does not have to.
We have the right to toss it back to them, to say, okay, go look at this, but I think what typically has happened in the past anyway is if we get to this point, there's meetings between, or workshops between the planning board of, okay, why did you do this, why did you do that, but ultimately, it's on us, so.
Thank you.
So anybody that wants a copy, the packet is available on the website, you can pull it off. Certainly if you feel that you want to render some comments to writing, you can hit the button for the selectmen and send us an email.
Or if you leave us an email address on the sheet at the end of the table here, we'd be happy to email you the packet.
Okay.
Is there a way to, if there's any other upcoming hearings or information about this to get notified other than just visiting the website?
Typically, we publish on all. There's an email that goes out to anybody that's on the distribution list. We post the hearings. If you want advance notice, then we'll just add you to the all town.
All towns, all committees. It's bigger than that.
The mailing list. There's slips on that table over there. I can sign up for email address for newsletter.
That way, if you sign up for that list, you automatically get the agenda for the Board of Selectmen's meetings. You get the planning board as well if you want.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you, folks. You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Probably have a different,
She's anxious to press that button.
So, we've ended.
Gary or Dave.
I got a call today. Actually, we discussed it, something about greener in black skull. So that somebody was going to do a repair shop.
big issues that I saw right away.
I don't know. I did hear that at one point. I don't. That had to that was. I heard that somewhere along some of it. That would have to go through the planning board to start with. And I haven't heard a thing. Have you heard anything like that? So I don't know if it went. They can't just go ahead and do it. And there's quite a bunch of It's very already.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
I don't think they know the laws.
They don't care.
Alright, when we get down. Any conversations going on, you can take them outside
He can tell you what you want.
Yeah, really. Timmy says that one about.
Huh?
Timmy.
Alright, we're gonna come back to order here.
Take care.
Have a good one.
We'll take it.
We'll take him right here.
Set, Gordon?
I'll pass him on.
Yeah, I'll set.
Alright,
Thank you.
let's move on here. The loudest one now. Any announcements from the board? Sensing none. Additions and deletions to the agenda, we're all set there. Public comment, other than what anybody has made tonight. Bridget, step right up to the mic.
Bridget McCallum, overseer of the library gardens. Want to report to Selectmen Littlefield and anyone else who's been wondering that the sign garden by the road on Route 5, 202 in East Waterboro is fully restored, planted, and being watered as we speak. No landscaping came in, did what they agreed to do. We are happy with it, and I would like to thank, since I'm up here saying this, a few people, Oksana Zagleski, Hope and Lisa Riley, Mary McCadden, and Frank Demers, who have been working with me to maintain those beds. I think it's one of the prettiest spots in town. There are a few other spots that are also quite beautiful, but those folks have kept it watered, and watering that sign garden out by the road means hauling a lot of buckets, so I want to thank them. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Anyone else? Moving on. Correspondence, the treasurer's reports. Treasurer's report is the last. She sent a report that had all of the accruals for last year.
You got that by email. There's not one in this packet.
There's an MS bike event on August 13th, 14th that's traveling through the community here, and I think there's more to come on that. Senator Woodsome's newsletter, Representative Prescott's weekly update, ecomaine recycling reports, all available as Selectmen's correspondence. Reports and staff initiatives, any Selectmen reports? Dwayne? Tim?
Nothing.
John?
Actually, no.
Gordon? Okay. And I think I'm all set.
Chief,
Town administrator.
legal?
Mr. Chair, you done with me?
Moving on.
No, next, we're gonna have a little discussion on the shore.
Very good.
Okay. Give us, right after Gary's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A quick update. The salt shed, the structure is essentially complete. We have electrical work and overhead door installation and final grading and paving inside and out. There's nothing new in the Route 202 right-of-way research progress from the state. Good for All Pharmacy called today, and Angela offered to do a flu shot clinic at Election Day, November 8th. I said, let's hold off on that for the moment. Let's see if we're going to have a large signature gathering effort in the facility there. But she's offered to do a flu shot clinic. Like Dennis said, the MS fundraiser will be coming through town from Ross Corner south on West Road this Sunday to the light at the Milk Room, and then across the Goodwin's Mills and South Waterboro Road into Lyman, headed for the end of the ride in Biddeford. The special town meeting warrant that was in your packets tonight, I don't know that I put a complete note on that. It's an example of how we could have a special town meeting as part of the normal all-day election voting. That was the goal of that document. It's not final text, it's just an idea. The reason the attorney did that was to save having to conduct a special town meeting if the question passes the vote. So we could have an actual town-wide vote and a special town meeting the same day with the same voting action. I have before me a prop tonight of 57 certified letters that came back. These are simple letters saying you still owe taxes on 2016. There's nothing grand and glorious and death-defying in them, so it would be helpful if you would just get your certified mail and pay your taxes up if you can, please. I had a discussion recently with Todd Abbott of ATV and Snowmobile Club representation on ATV travel use on the town roads. We're going to research several other towns and see how they do what they do successfully, and then we'll be getting back to the board later. And I believe that's it from me for now. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
I got a comment on Deering's Ridge.
Yeah.
I think we have quite a liability with that sign that's out there right to the edge of the pavement and the rocks that somebody's put out right to the edge of the pavement on the townhouse end of the Deering's Ridge.
There's a lot of obstacles.
Trying to haul equipment off that Deering's Ridge, and you meet a car right there. I can tell you what, a baler don't make it.
What sign are you talking about, Dwayne?
There's a sign right on the sharp turn after you come down over Cotton Hill. It says, stay on the pavement. And that's definitely in the right-of-way. And I believe that we would have some type of liability if somebody hit that, because it's in our right-of-way.
Oh, the ATV sign?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
A lot of
There's a
people
private landowner that put the sign up, right?
And then when you come down through there on the left-hand side, somebody's laid some rocks about, 12 inches in diameter right out to the edge of the pavement. Actually, one of them's in the pavement.
Just recent?
Oh, so it's been there most of the summer.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else? You know when they back up on that ditching project on Deering Ridge?
Going there very soon. I'll be there for weeks.
Okay. All right, let's talk about what we just went through here tonight. And I know, let's go back to Glenn's letter here. This started, when did you say? August of 2015. So we've been at this for a year, right? And I sent you guys a note today, and I think that came up tonight. You know, I'm not sure why we would have added or subtracted something from, or added something different than what 1,000 says. Okay, I don't get that out of all of these documents. Is there a document that says?
No, there isn't.
Let's see if I can explain that so you'll understand it. anything that was added, deleted, was deleted because it wasn't pertinent to the town of Waterboro for beginners.
Okay.
If it was added,
Those are the simple ones.
those are the simple ones.
The ones that become somewhat complex is, all right, the state says this, we think it should be more restrictive, so we added something.
The only two things that I recall that reflects is a permit required when you're doing a specific type of maintenance. And the issue I'm finding, that's under section 12C, the issue I'm finding is when they're doing maintenance, they're doing structural repairs because, they're taking off the siding, now they find rot behind the siding, and all of a sudden they have to repair a rotted sill. Well, I'm still doing maintenance. That's true, but you're now doing structural repairs. The permit's required. So the statement went into 12C saying a permit is required if you're doing structural repairs and not for painting or roof repair. Our building code requires a permit for any alteration of any kind. That's in the 2009 IRC. So the other statement is saying it's up to the property owner to contact the code enforcement office to see if a permit is required for the project that they're envisioning. And if it involves structural repairs, yes. If you're replacing siding, no. If you're replacing a roof, no. If you're changing out a window, yes. If you're putting in a skylight, yes.
So that's under 12C here?
Yep.
Page 4 in the document, if you're looking at page number.
Why if you're changing out a window, if you have a damaged window, and you take that out to put a new window in, it's the same size?
If it's the same size, then a permit's not required.
Oh, okay.
If you're changing the size, either smaller or bigger, a permit's required.
So I think maybe, and not to belabor this meeting tonight, because I think we really need to sit down and walk through this thing, okay? And you certainly, were the author of this. So I'm not sure whether we have a joint meeting with the planning board and you, but I think we take the feedback that we've got. And I don't know whether does Tammy have the feedback from the public hearings of the?
Well, I think for me to go through this, and I think Gordon said the same thing, I think Doug was saying the same thing, is that this is 70 pages. What I'd like to be able to do is to call out, as Doug was mentioning, here's all the language that hasn't changed, that is right now that hasn't changed, that I don't have to spend a lot of time trying to scratch my head and figure out what it's saying. Here's the language that is tied into state law and it is the same. Don't need to mess with that. Here's stuff that's more restrictive than DEP. DEP language here in red, Waterboro language in green, whatever it is. Then I can go through all these, get down to the issues that really count, compare them, and not have to go through this again and again and again, trying to call out all the stuff that you understand that's important. So I think Doug had a point there in getting some stuff in different colors, saying that this is where we are now. This is where this ordinance would be taking us. That's different.
I agree with that. Now, I don't mean any disrespect, but the last time I tried that with this board, you found it confusing. So
well, you did what?
You found it confusing the last time I tried that with this board. And if I was to do a comparison chart between what is proposed and what the DEP regulations are and what hasn't changed, you're looking at a 300-page document.
Yeah, okay, you don't want to go there. I'm trying to make it simpler.
I hear you. I'll do whatever the board wants me to do.
I mean, for me, if you came up with the notes, like sometimes Gary does, and say, okay, here's the important pieces here, and kind of, you understand this stuff, you live with it, and you digest it for me, chew it and digest it, and then I can make some decisions from there.
Yep.
Did you say we give you conflicting messages?
On occasion.
On occasion.
But I think a good session where we just kind of walk through and understand, because this gets even more convoluted, because you're taking all of this out of the zoning ordinance and making it a standalone. There's a lot of this language exists today in the zoning ordinance.
And a lot of it doesn't.
Right, I understand that.
Yep.
But, so it would like get 3 decks of cards here, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Right, we got the state deck, we got the town deck, and we've got this new deck, right?
I can establish a spreadsheet that shows you where our ordinance sits, it shows you where the chapter 1000 sits, and it shows you where the planning board proposes the town to sit.
Okay.
That's 300 pages. And we've gone through, I bet, 6 reams of paper so far.
But some of that is we don't need to get into it. And you know, the simple, like I said, the simple ones are, hey, the Chapter 1000 has got something that has no effect over the town of Waterboro. Why would we even entertain that?
Right.
Other than this doesn't apply to the town of Waterboro, right? But as we start to get into, I mean, some of the issues of, you know, right-of-ways, grandfathered, you know, this, that, and the other thing, you know, we need a pretty good explanation of, is it allowed in the current shoreland zoning, and is it above and I'm assuming it's above and beyond what's in the state shoreland zoning, because they don't address some of that stuff, right?
Right.
Even docks. I mean, we can argue about dock lengths till the cows come home. That's a matter of, I mean, and I have mixed emotions, because if we're going to put a number on it, then we need to check them, and we don't have time to check them. So somehow you got to say,
and I'm on the fence with that.
What are we going to do?
Yeah, I'm on the fence with that as well.
So I really think that we need to, I mean, everybody's got this, let's digest it a little bit, but I do think it takes, you know, if it's a couple of hours some night, just to kind of walk through page by page of this, to say, this is why we pulled it out. I mean, there's really got to be some sort of a definition of why there's pros and cons of pulling this out of the zoning ordinance and having a standalone, right?
You know, I don't even know where that recommendation came from. I don't know if Natalie recommended. I really don't know where the standalone ordinance came from. It made sense to me at the time. I mean,
it's really irrelevant, isn't it?
It is irrelevant. It doesn't mean a hill of beans. Yeah. We have other standalone ordinances.
Understand that.
And talk about interpretation. Oh my God. I do that every single day of the week with our ordinance as it sits today.
Yeah.
I mean, going through this page by page, I don't want to go through something page by page that's not a controversy. You know, I only want to I want to be drawn to the areas that there's controversy to, where we need to make decisions.
Yeah, so
they 80% of it that doesn't need that, why spend time with it?
So let me offer this. What if we have a workshop, after we get all of the information, and put those issues up on the wall, and say, okay, one of the issues is right-of-ways, all right? What are we going to do about it?
I have an answer to that.
Okay? And how's it going to be addressed in here, right? And then make a decision of if the language has to change or doesn't have to change, fine. Docks, I think we're going to have the discussion on docks, okay? You know, commercial versus residential, I don't have a problem with saying a commercial has to have a conditional use permit. That happens all over town.
It does.
Right?
Yeah,
so this isn't targeted at
a
business that happens to be on the lake.
Yep.
And I would think if there was a commercial endeavor on the lake, you'd want to be able to control that, right? So I think those are the things that we get to air out. Go ahead.
Did you have your hand up?
If it's going to be a standalone ordinance, it needs to include your ordinance that you've already got that you're referring back to, or at least refer back to section such and such.
Oh, the old one goes away, this one replaces.
I know that, but a lot of these chapters in this shoreland zoning doesn't really cover everything.
It has to go
And
back.
then you gotta go back into your zoning ordinance, and it's gonna be very confusing. Because, well, I can read it here and I can do it here, but I can't do it here. And if this is a standalone ordinance, and these people on Osprey Lake or Lake Sherburne or Lone Pond or wherever, they come in and grab that book. Well, I can do it here. Whoops! I can't do it in the town ordinance zoning book.
If you're in shoreland, then that's where this ordinance only counts.
But your A&R zone allows a lot more, even though...
Not inside shoreland.
Well, if they got land in that, behind that 250 feet, yes, they do.
Yeah, then you go into the AR ordinance.
And then you're transferring that lot from two different books.
Yeah.
And it's very confusing.
You know how many
and
books I have to look at in order to make a decision? That's hardly a problem for this office.
I was going to say, it sounds like everything else to me.
So,
Yeah.
Gary, go ahead.
If I could, break out your computer or your document and go to page 4, please, in the shoreline zoning draft. In my mind, there's two big issues here, and they have a lot of other sub-issues. But if you go to page 4, you see that blue text there. I understand why Glenn put the underlined... I'm sorry, let me wait for these folks to get there. Gordon, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Tim?
Yeah.
Got it? The blue text is Natalie, and I understand why she did that. She wants to make sure that the owner's responsible for coming in for permit. Fine. The confusion that was raised on the floor here, I agree with it, and I think we can easily flip this and say at the start here, the ordinance allows without a permit and what it allows without, and we can say that. And then down below in the underlined sentence, we could just change it by saying a building permit is required for repairs or replacement of structural components. In other words, you put in a 2x4, you take one out. I think this is an easy thing to fix.
I agree.
And
Mr. Land brought that up to me earlier today, and I think that was a magic bullet.
so I don't see this as a big hurdle. The next big hurdle, if you go to page 12, hold out page 12 and then have page 18 under a different finger.
Yep. 12 and 18.
Page 12 is the table with teeny tiny font. And look at that section 17 on that table. It deals with piers, docks, wharves, etc. I mean, since Natalie delivered her recommendations here, and I don't know if she missed her, she just didn't comment on it, we've learned that this section 17 of piers, docks, and wharves, which also corresponds to page 18, which is the text that backs all that up, this is optional for the town. This is where you as a board can say yay or nay to regulating docks. Doing nothing of that or doing...
When you say optional per
you can take
chapter
the whole,
1000?
Yes, per Mike Morse at DEP. You can take the whole section out, 15C on page 18 in text, and you can take the whole section 17 out on page 12 in the table and don't have anything to do with docks. This is something that the planning board didn't have, I think, knowledge or full knowledge of when they went over this.
So what if it becomes a matter of obstruction?
It becomes a matter of obstruction. I guess if you bail out of this and you don't do any of this, I would treat it all as civil issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Keep in mind, it also doesn't restrict the amount of docks on any lot of any kind.
There's a good and a bad to this. We got to. You folks have to decide what you want to do and not do. So this is probably the one that would take the most time to determine as a community what we want to do and not do. But please know that it's optional.
Okay.
Would that apply to business and residential?
It does.
Yeah.
So let me off this.
Mr. Chair, may I sit down?
Sure. Unless you're comfortable.
For a
up there.
while, yeah.
So let's publish something that says for the next 30 days, we'll take public comment for this meeting.
I'll make that a motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? So we will publish
60 or 30?
30.
30?
We will publish something that says we'll take additional public comment until September 9th, which just happens to be a Friday. Okay?
Written public comment?
Written public comment. And then I think we need to, you need to distill those comments down into categories, which ought to be fairly simple, right? Because there aren't more than a few categories here that everybody's got concerns with. Then I think we all need to come together and sit down and say, okay, because one of my questions, like back to the planning board, if somebody raised an issue with the planning board, did the planning board take that issue and say, we agree with it or disagree with it?
Yeah, in some cases they did.
Okay, so they would have a record of, this came up at public comment, we addressed it, we agree with them or we don't agree with them, right? We're gonna go forward. So, and I think that's what we have to do. We have to be able to say, some things just aren't fair, like taxes and zoning, right? I mean, people, there's gonna be an issue of conditional uses for commercial stuff. Well, my personal feeling is I don't have a problem with requiring conditional use. They're not gonna be happy if we do that, but, but those are the things that I think we just come out and we say, this is where we're going, restructure this thing language-wise or whatever we gotta do and move forward. So,
I didn't happen to see it, but is there anything in regards to piers and stuff that deals with the configuration of a pier?
No.
Or a dock? So I could go out 10 feet and then make a long T, and then off that T put in a whole bunch of slips. And that's
as long as it extend out to 40 feet.
As long as I didn't extend, 30 feet or 40 feet existing now, I'd be fine, but I could triple the amount of boats that I could park in.
Well,
right?
My office would interpret that as, you can have 40 feet of dock, no matter what the configuration. You can have 40 feet.
Oh, you're talking about
10,
linear.
10,
right.
All right.
10, 10, 20.
Yeah.
We also need a definition of marina before we get done with this. So that if there's money exchanged, maybe it's a definition of marina.
There is a definition in the zoning book.
Oh, sure.
Oh, is it? Okay. Because one guy brought it up, he says, I have 3 boats, and if I park them end to end, they don't fit.
Right.
I'm thinking, why don't you park
Well,
one on the other side? Park one on the other side.
That we ought to air out is, the lady from the
Yeah,
campground
but
said
they park
that
2 on one side of the
some
dock
of
and
her
one on the other side
clients
of the dock.
rent space.
have big boats down.
Did she say that out loud?
That's the problem.
We got 3 things going on
Just
here.
It's on the record,
20,
please.
30 feet long.
Yeah.
These people have big boats. We're not all for like you that don't have big boats.
No, but I'm saying, if you got 2 sides of a dock, you can park.
So let's do that.
Let's continue. And let's see if we can't find somebody to take us around before it gets any colder. So
There might be
this whole board understands. I mean, I've been around the lake several times on site walks and whatnot, but just to let you see what is actually out there.
Don Holden sell his house yet?
Yes.
Nuts.
My brother's got a boat.
Okay.
I'm sure I can convince him to take us around.
It's getting to a point where
My brother-in-law's got a boat right on the right too.
But he's got one of those pontoon boats.
it's getting to a point where an hour's ride, it took about an hour and a half the last couple trips that I went around. But
Good idea.
It's by 7:30, 7:45 now. It's getting dark. So
So why are we limiting it to Ossipee, focusing on that? Are we gonna do an assessment on each one of the large bodies of water, or?
I'm sure that we can if we wanted to. It's
Long day in Lake Arrowhead.
yeah.
Biggest sleeping bag.
Where the issues are, where you can see the issues are.
Right now, the issue is on Ossipee Lake.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, you didn't see anybody from Lake Shoreland in the area, you didn't see anybody, because, kind of a non-issue with them at this point, It won't be once they get
Once
grieved by it.
Once
but
they get
I mean,
impacted by it, yeah.
The only thing I asked the board was that I just want this done this year.
Yeah.
And there's, and
Doesn't
there's
have to be
a part
another
of whatever
driveway
lake,
ordinance.
there's, you go out 40 feet and there's not enough water there to go down 2 feet for an engine. So, I'd like to see that too. If there's any place where people have camps and want to put a dock out there, and the dock is only in 2 feet of water.
On the upper part of the lake, the grass goes out for.
Yeah.
Or a foot of water.
Neon
Gary?
and down in that area.
All those concerns go away that both of you gentlemen just raised if you decide not to regulate docks.
Oh, yeah.
So,
But I think with
That's
with
the
the boat,
$64,000.
my thought with the boat ride would give the whole board a picture of what is out there. Dennis and I probably
A drone would
maybe
do
go.
that.
All I can tell you is that I've had one go around on the lake this year, and I was shocked at some of the stuff out there.
you want to pick a date?
Okay.
Pick a Saturday morning?
I'm good with you want to do it on a Saturday?
If we get a lot of people that want to go with us, because it's a public meeting, they can follow us in their own boat.
I'll be there.
Or we
Let me see what, I'm sure
50 people trying to get on a pontoon
Don will
boat.
take us around.
I'll advertise, I'll take my 2 boats out, and I'll take as many people as I can put on them.
We can get some of those banana boats.
But they're gonna need microphones. They're gonna need microphones.
Oh, that's right, you need
Yeah.
microphones, that's right. Remember the old days of Willis?
It's
and-
what,
You didn't need
Girl.
this Saturday.
He didn't need one.
You want to target the 20th, Saturday the 20th?
Yeah.
That'd be better than the 27th.
Let me see if we can set something up and we'll do it lunchtime or thereabouts, or you want to do it first thing in the morning?
Either way.
I think a nice lunch on the lake.
Oh, okay.
No.
You get a better idea of road traffic if you go more midday.
Good point.
Well, it is interesting that people still point the finger at that boat launch as being the culprit for all the wild and crazies on the lake, and
It's
that's not the case.
It's not at all.
Hasn't been for years.
No.
Okay? Enough said on this?
Yeah, and the other thing about they got so many boats over there. Well, geez, if you have a day, what if you have a fishing tournament in the summertime, and you got everybody going to the boat launch, and they launch 60 boats?
They have to have parking though to launch 60 boats.
Yeah, but I mean, you can park somewhere else and have a shuttle drive you there, and you're still getting boats on the lake.
Well, that's true, yeah, you're right.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, what are my instructions? If I go home?
You want to go around the lake?
I do not.
All right.
I'll get
You
you
can
some
go home
drone
then.
pictures.
Yeah.
Thanks, Glenn.
You're welcome.
I hate to put you through all of this every time.
No problem.
Seems like every time, well, seems like if it's driveways, it is. Okay, moving along, under new business, appointments to boards and committees.
Yeah, that sheet there.
Okay, so we have,
We can't do the first one. She
can't do
didn't
the
show it
first
yet.
one. So to the community garden, a renewal, Nancy Brandt, and public safety, Ted Doyle. What's your pleasure?
I will move that both of them be appointed.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Possible vote on questions of proposed central fire station additional funding.
Well, a very, very short background. I've asked Lisa to come here for any operational filler that we might need here. Trying to boil this question down to the concept of whether or not you want to send the question to the voters. Don't need to talk specifically about language. Dollars, we've said not to exceed $2 million from the work that we've done with the architect. To back up, we built a central station without overnight accommodations in mind. It's not a sprinkled building, it is a wood structure. I hate it when fire stations burn down. Doesn't have the proper decontamination, shower, locker room space, closet for cleaning supplies, all those little things you saw in the video and the handouts that we had. I don't call that a proper public entrance now, and certainly with what we proposed, would have a meeting room that's better laid out if there's going to be the public using it, so that it can be separated from the rest of the building. There are 2 bays in there for additional equipment. We know they're in the vicinity of $250,000 to $300,000 each, so if cost cutting had to be done down the road, if this does go forward, that would probably the first thing that one of those would go by the wayside.
That's what got us into this mess, though. I know it's just discussion, but that's why we're in the mess that we're in now, is because they started, cutting costs.
And we've put some Band-Aids on it too over the...
Yeah.
But we followed your lead. We followed your lead and took the more, instead of the 0 to 10 year plan for changes there, we followed your lead saying 10 to 20 years. And I think we've done that. It's $1.9 million. Again, architects' estimates, which usually run at least 5, if not 10 or more % high. About another $100,000 to bring the water up from the elementary school, which we really think we should do. And we'll aggressively pursue grant funding, but we can't talk numbers now, nor should we, but just know that we would do that. Staff would like you to vote on whether or not you want to send this to the voters this fall, and then we can work out the details of the actual wording.
I move that we send this to referendum in the fall.
And I second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion?
I have a question.
Yep.
Will there be public hearings on this?
Absolutely.
I bet you.
If anybody wants it to pass, there'd have to be some public hearings.
Right. That's it. Thanks.
Dwayne, anything?
No, just a lot of money.
Yeah.
Besides public hearings, I know that one of the things that we did in Sanford when we were going for the police station over there was we held public informational sessions. So they weren't as structured as a public hearing, and you'd have a preset, like you'd have a speaker making a presentation. This is why this is needed, and you can do that in different areas all over town. I might suggest, having that as a component of our...
Staff has been talking about a short video that would be helpful. Take this a multi-pronged approach. There'll be all kinds of informational meetings. We'll do open houses. There has to be at least one public hearing because we're borrowing money.
Yeah.
You can do a PSA on the cable and all of that.
Yep. But we need the direction, so I'll shut up and let you folks vote.
Yeah, my thoughts are, I think, my first reaction is let's do everything except for the 2 additional bays, but I think that is being short-sighted. And I think that if we're going to do it, then let's put everything together with what's going to be done. So, and I know it's a big nut, but that being said, we need to really get busy with how much grant money we can pick up.
Yep.
So. Anything else?
Is there a master plan beyond this expansion?
No.
This is it so far?
No. Do you have anything else you want to add, Lisa?
No, we haven't even gotten to Plan B in the event that this doesn't pass.
Right.
I'm also thinking of North Waterboro, next thing down the road.
No, and I think you got to look out in whether it's Courtney or whether it's whoever, somewhere at some point in time, in the next, whatever happens here, we need to say, what is it we're going to do down the road.
Goal setting workshop when we do that.
Yeah.
Bring those things up.
All right. Sensing everybody's ready to vote, all those in favor? Opposed?
5-0.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now, I don't quite understand what you were talking about a special town meeting and a referendum vote.
If you go to agenda item 10A, that was in your packet.
Yeah?
This special town meeting warrant would allow a special town meeting to be going on all day long as the election, as the ballot is before you. People would vote on this question, Article 2 question,
Right.
at the polls, and there would also be a special town meeting. So the vote takes care of two purposes. Townwide vote and special town meeting approval of borrowing, if that helps.
But you can approve the borrowing through the referendum question.
We did that before, remember I got told that we had to have
Yeah.
that article on the recent town meeting.
All right. Okay. Moving on. Discuss and vote to approve the minutes of the June 18th annual town meeting. Pretty exciting.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded to approve the June 18th annual town meeting minutes. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes. Discuss the vote to approve the minutes of the July 26th regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Pending decisions. Week's action list. Let's get an email out or something out on the website that says the public access. So is that an all-town email that goes out, and you've got a handful of more emails to put on the list tonight?
I think we got two reporters here that might help us out as far as,
Yeah.
and
So we look for something in
advertising
the,
that we're
look for
looking
something
for.
that the town's gonna take, the Board of Selectmen's taking public comments.
Written public comment for 30 days.
All right?
Okay, one other thing there.
Yep.
It does, at some point in time, doesn't have to be tonight, we need to talk about setting a date for a goals workshop.
Yep. Who's signing for Tammy Jo? Yeah, we need to, I thought we did that.
We did it, but we failed on it because we had other things that were more pressing that we needed at the time. September 6th or 20?
Let's stick that on the next agenda.
Okay. Got that, Jerry?
Also on the next agenda, and ask the board what your feelings are. Andrea Bowman called me, would like to have a few minutes on the agenda to at least introduce herself. She's a candidate for this Senate district. I guess my reaction is I don't have a problem with that as long as we make that same offer to Senator Woodsome. So we could set an invitation to both that if they'd like to speak to the board at the next meeting. That's something that you're interested in or not? I know it's political times, but
Do we have a candidate tonight or no?
we do not have a candidates night scheduled. And typically,
Prescott's running.
well, there's two candidates for the representative district, and certainly two for the Senate district. So maybe we ought to have that discussion. Do we want to have a candidates forum? We typically have always invited all the state and the federal, but all you get is a bunch of, how do I want to say this, stand-ins for all of those other candidates that, surrogates, I guess is the
You've got county positions too.
right. So, yeah, why don't we put that on the agenda of having that discussion?
Whether or not to schedule a candidates night.
Yep.
Okay.
But so everybody all set with at least having Andrea come in for a few minutes, and we'll also offer that Same opportunity to David.
I don't know, are we setting a precedent here by doing that, or?
Well,
Because we've stayed fairly
well, we've
apolitical.
had candidates that have come in and at least introduced themselves in the past. I mean, 2 years ago, right, we had Tuttle and, and Libby, and so.
Okay, so we've already established it, okay.
When Andrea called me, I said, there's a public comment portion of every meeting. You're welcome to come in and just introduce yourself. I said, if you want to take up issues, then you should get a hold and get on the agenda. And that's what Andrea did. She called Dennis today. And so you can, if you want to put them on the agenda, that's fine. You can give them time. I have no problem.
Let's pencil them in, but, you know, and they don't have to both be the same night, but I think we owe both that opportunity.
The other thing I had was a reminder that we're back here a week from tonight with Natalie on a workshop for talking about the referendum voting question and any other legal issues we want to pile onto her that evening.
Is this our freebie meeting?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Is this our freebie meeting?
Freebie meeting.
I didn't take that up with her yet. I don't know. Not sure if she's given us the free one yet.
And
Can I ask a question? May I ask a question?
sure.
When you say to discuss the referendum voting question, what are you wanting to discuss with it?
Changing town meeting from the town meeting to
The legality
referendum.
of how that would
Right.
have to operate.
Process.
And issues in and around that. Okay. And I did, by the way, I did speak to folks in Hollis. There is no provision, if they vote down a referendum line item in Hollis, there's no budget.
Yeah, no budget
They have
at
to go
all.
to a special.
I asked to.
Come back to a special town meeting and pass something.
Yeah. And a special probably is a vote.
It would be easier just to go back to last year's budget.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else, folks? Reminder of the August 23rd public hearing on the second captain position in special town meeting. Possible special town meeting. That is the follow-up to the town meeting issue. Okay? If there's nothing out, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
That workshop is at 6 next week.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Move to adjourn. Second.
Been moved and seconded.
Adjourned at
All those in favor?
7:45.